Hello, and welcome to On Good Faith, the program sponsored by the Cape Cod Council of Churches. I am Jonathan Onquist, the pastor of First Lutheran Church in West Barnstable, and it has been my privilege and honor to be hosting this program for several months now. And today especially is a special day for me as members of First Lutheran Church that were part of a delegation that visited the Churches of Christ in Jordan from the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America's New England Synod. A synod is like a diocese in our Lutheran Church structure. And this group visited the Palestinian Christian community in the Holy Land. And it was quite an exciting mission sponsored by the Global Mission Team of the New England Synod of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America. The connection we have as a sister synod with the Evangelical Lutheran Church of Jordan, the ELCJ, and we are the ELCA, Evangelical Lutheran Church in America. A prayer that I think will prelude our discussion today is a prayer from Christians in Kenya. And this, I think, is quite poignant to issues we're dealing with in the Holy Land. From the cowardice that does not face new truth, from the laziness that is content with half-truth, from the arrogance that thinks it knows all truth, good Lord, deliver us. In so many issues in our troubled world, we need such deliverance, and that is our prayer as believing Christian men and women. And this effort, this group that visited the Holy Land has a lot to tell us about and several pictures to share. I'd like to first call upon Nancy Titcomb and the Reverend Ernest Ryden, Carolyn Nelson, the Reverend Ernest Ryden, and Nancy Titcomb, our guests. And but Carolyn, first, can you tell us about your group and its trip?
Well, here is a picture of the group that was taken from the Mount of Olives, overlooking. I'm sorry, the picture was taken from the Mount of Olives, and it's overlooking the old city with the group of us in the foreground. I don't believe we're getting that picture, so we'll just go on and say a little bit more. But we did visit 5 of the 6 churches in this synod, and here's the group. And there we are. There were 9 of us there, actually. We were 13. One was taking the picture and one wasn't there that day. But I'm not sure you can point us out, but there we are. And we did visit 5 of the 6 churches in this synod.
Now, these 5 churches were part of the Evangelical Lutheran Church of Jordan.
Yes. They are all in Palestine. The church in Jordan is still a part of the synod, but we did not go there. It would have been difficult traveling.
Now, the next picture is the wall group in the front. Is that, if we could move to that second picture, the wall group in the front.
We thought today that the wall is in the news. I think most everybody is seeing different clips about what's happening.
The wall that is being constructed.
The wall that's being constructed. They've been working on it for 2 years now. A little over 2 years. The proposed plan is for 485 miles of this 25-foot high cement wall, and it's called the Wall of Separation. It's called many things by different people over there, but that's the intent of it, of course, is to protect the Israeli people from the Palestinian people.
The picture we have now has the graffiti. Is that a significant part of?
That's just one grouping. We went to this section of the wall and we saw quite a bit of graffiti there. And if you can read what that one just said about the wall is war. They want peace. They don't want the wall. Ernest had another picture of further graffiti that's very relevant.
Now, the next picture is one that you were focusing on, Ernest. Could we see that next picture?
Yeah, the significance of this is that the writers of the graffiti are comparing this wall with the Warsaw Ghetto Wall. That's the wall that the Nazis built in the city of Warsaw, Poland, to confine the Jews prior to them being deported. But they lived there for some time while they were bricked up, stoned up in Warsaw. And it says here, from Warsaw Ghetto to Obodys Ghetto. Obodys is the name of that community where that section of the wall goes through. And the people, the wall not only goes by some of these cities and villages, but it actually goes around them. And it makes the people inside are imprisoned. They can go out and leave the community if the gate is open. If the gate is not open, they can't leave their community. They're imprisoned. And it's impossible to do any commerce that way. And so the whole town becomes out of business.
At this time, they're constructing that wall, correct? And the next picture we have is the construction going on. That's the wall going up now. It's in the news every day.
Yeah, the wall is cast in cement off-site and carried. That's a 24-foot long section being transported to where the wall is being built, and then you're looking at the footprint of that section there.
And the graffiti is it's a political statement.
A very strong political statement, because it says to the Jewish community, "You're doing to us what Hitler did to you." Well, of course, that's an overstatement, because there is no extermination taking place, but they're encouraging the Palestinians to leave the country. And if there is one place they can go to with total freedom, it's the airport. They can leave the country anytime they want, but they can't come back again.
And the next picture, Ernest, is the story of a boy at a corner, at a store. Nancy, was this?
Yes, right. This section of the wall that we went out to see goes right down through this. As you can see, the truck going in there. On the right is a small little store, and we visited the shop. It's a typical little convenience grocery store. But the sad part of it is the owner of that store lives on the other side of the wall, and it's made a terrible impact on his business, plus his life. And it's just disrupted everything. It's terrible.
And these checkpoints, you were talking about them too, Ernest. The checkpoints you have to go through are in different locations on the wall. They're not close, are they? Are they divided by miles, or in some cases?
Oftentimes,
And persons have to go through these checkpoints, even if their store, like in that instance, is right
every
across the
day.
wall. They have to go 17 miles to get around to his place of work.
And you can't drive through the checkpoint. You have to walk through, and you have to take a cab.
And here's the cab picture.
Yeah, you take a cab to about a quarter mile of the checkpoint, and then you have to walk that quarter mile, go through the checkpoint, walk another quarter mile, and get on a different taxi cab.
And the next picture is the IDE checkpoint in the Western Wall. Have we got that picture too? Carol?
I'm sorry. This shows IDF, which is Israeli Defense Forces, and they're protecting the Western Wall, which is the famous Wailing Wall in the old city. But it was the one picture we had concerning the soldiers that we saw at every checkpoint, and we just thought we would show it from that point of view. They were very relaxed that day.
And always armed.
Always armed, very large guns. I don't know guns, but they're very large.
And
very young.
Young boys,
Israeli,
young men.
Yes, yes.
And women.
And women.
And women,
yes,
too.
that's true. Yes.
And this picture is,
This is walking through the checkpoint in Calandia. We were on our way to Ramallah, and we were waiting. You have to go through 2 checkpoints, and we're waiting to get through the first one where they'll check our passports. I was very interested in taking this picture because I was standing with a Palestinian woman, and we could not speak to each other. She spoke Arabic, and I did not. And I just thought, I wonder if she is going to get through as easily as I do. I never was able to find out. Yes.
That's
So you-
one of the complex parts of it, is that a person one day may go through the checkpoint and have no problems, and the next day, the same person going through the same checkpoint may have his papers taken,
Due to,
just harassment. I mean, they can just take it and hold him, and that person can't leave because they're not going to leave without their papers. So they may be there 4 or 5 hours waiting. Just
and it's just luck of the draw.
random.
And
It's random.
they never know whether it's a 5-minute wait or a 5-hour wait.
Next, we have entering Ramallah. This is, or is this the,
That's
That's the
that's
wall.
that's in Ramallah, and that's where the stone throwers were throwing stones at these were youth at the soldiers, and they were firing back with rubber bullets. And about every 30 seconds, you'd hear a rifle go off. The reason for the throwing of stones was in response to the news out of the West Bank that 30 people had been murdered by the Israelis using rockets. And the youth threw stones, and the soldiers shot back with rubber bullets, and it was in the newspaper the next day. The Jerusalem Post reported that 10 were killed.
Well, we happened to be there. We're coming in by cab, and we happened to be there. But when we think of it, that other people go through this all the time, I did not feel that I was threatened that night. But it was an experience, and maybe it was good we had.
I think one of the things that puzzled me in watching the news at home, rocks being thrown, I wondered, well, where do they ever find rocks? I mean, if we were on our streets, our youth couldn't pick up a lot of rocks and throw like you see them there. But what it amounts to is it's rubble left over from the demolished houses. It's everywhere you look is rubble. It's in order to put the wall up, is in that picture we just saw of the wall, they clear about a half a mile or quarter mile on each side of it.
of
you know,
homes?
just everything,
Yeah.
olive trees, homes, and everything.
Yeah.
So there's rubble everywhere left from the demolition. So there are plenty of rocks to be thrown.
The next picture showed another type of barrier. What is this?
This isn't really a barrier. It shows the razor wire, and razor wire are used as a barrier. But if the wall is not completed, there are ditches and razor wire and so forth. So it's just.
Now, the effect of the wall is or for the safety of the Israeli people, is the context in which it is put up.
It's put
But
up.
what is the effect of that on the Palestinian people?
Well, I had a wonderful opportunity after church on one Sunday. I was invited into the home of a family in Beit Jala. And it was just a marvelous experience. They drove home from church in this very rickety, old, dusty, yellow Volkswagen Rabbit. And but before, let's see, we made a stop. We're going to show a picture of the family first.
Let's show Nancy's family here. We have a picture of your
It
family.
was stop. At a, oh no, first the family. I'm sorry.
It's the family.
The picture of the family that you visited.
Yes, the
Okay.
family is made up of
Here it is.
Well, this is the young daughter, Laura, and her brother Richard and Waito, and they have a very traditional Sunday practice that we might do here at home. They stop at the store for a treat on Sunday, and for the children, a sweet treat. And then we drove to their home, and this is the family. On the right is the mother. Her name is Scarlett. We had a lot of fun with that because her father thoroughly enjoyed Gone with the Wind, so his daughter was named Scarlett. And the father of the family is Salami. And he said, pronounced just like you eat. But then the children, and then his mother lives with them. And their home is a very modest home, as you can see. It's a cement block and stone home. barren, really. It was just a very modest home. As we entered the yard coming into the home, they took me up onto the roof. It's very common over there, of course, to use the roof of their home for drying many things or for anything. But he took me up for a special reason because the wall now is going right next to their home.
We have that picture, I believe, the temporary wall.
The
There it is.
There it is. Now their house is
no,
right.
actually,
That's in
no.
Hebron.
This is Hebron. This was showing the other barricade,
Okay.
the way they block the road. When you hear that all of a sudden they blocked this road, they'll put these 4x4 blocks of cement in the road, and this is showing those. But from the rooftop of my family's home,
That's this next picture, I trust.
yes, it shows where there's a military installation immediately next to their building. And as we stood on the roof, and well, this looks out their backyard from the roof, and you can see the old wall. There is a temporary wall to your right in that picture going down right through their olive grove. So this makes it so he cannot go over and take care of his olive trees or harvest his olives. He does not have papers that allow him to go through the Israeli checkpoint.
So he cannot go to his own olive grove.
He cannot go through. This family has not been to Jerusalem for 3 years. That would be like, I say, I'm from Sandwich, it's like being in Sandwich and not being able to go to Barnstable. The wall is there, and they don't have papers to get through. So for 3 years, they've not been allowed to go. They're very restricted, but the military installation that shows from the rooftop of their home, on the far, that's the one there, you'll see this camouflage netting in the center of the picture. Behind that is a machine gun. And then up on the left, that first window and that top part of the military installation is another machine gun. And those are manned 24 hours. So this family, they're living immediately next to this. The children are not allowed out in the yard to play. He doesn't dare let them out with that
guns,
threat. Sure. Then the next picture shows the ambulance, the checkpoint. An ambulance is not allowed to go through a checkpoint either. Just like we said, the taxis are not allowed.
Ambulances are not allowed to go
No, they're
through.
not. You see in the picture that you see the rear view of an ambulance. You have to look very closely, but he's pulled up to a checkpoint, and beyond that is another ambulance waiting. So they have to take the patient out, walk the patient around over to the other one. Yeah, it's a
And that
very-
is because there is fear there could be a car bomb or
Well, there have
something in
been,
the
and-
ambulance, and there have been. It's just very hard on the patient.
And you can understand the fear also, but
Absolutely. Absolutely.
after being there like you were, do you see an answer to
Well,
this
my family
dilemma?
said very strongly
Your
that,
family, the family
that I
visited here.
visited, that if the wall were to have been placed on the boundary determined in 1967, there'd be no problem. They could accept that. But the wall is going up now. It's going up and taking more property. It's taking their land. It's going down his olive grove. They're not on any defined boundary. They're making their own boundary around the settlements that have come in. So it's land taking. So
Does the Israeli government acknowledge that in any way?
it's very open, very open. The settlements are huge.
The settlements just checker the entire West Bank portion of Israel. They go where they want to with the settlements, and many of the settlements are only 30% occupied, and they're just taking the land, and they can't get enough people to
risk living there.
fill the houses. And so they recruit them from New York City, and many of the settlers come from Brooklyn, and Brooklyn, New York. And these are the you would call the radical. And they carry guns, and they're very eager to use them. And the settlements are interconnected by a highway system that the Palestinians are not allowed to drive on. And it goes by the Palestinian cities and villages with no exits. And the Palestinians, if they did want to drive on it, they wouldn't be allowed to because they have the wrong kind of license plate.
And the intent of this is the safety of the Israeli people, correct? That's the intent of this
Well, that's
arrangement.
part of the intent. A larger part of the intent is to make it so difficult for the Palestinians that they can't make a living, they can't do anything, life is miserable. When they say the Jewish people can drive on these highways and the Palestinians can't, that is apartheid.
Yeah.
I think, too, it was pointed out to us so very often that it is the government policies, and we can't say that it's all the Israeli people. I believe there are many people in Israel who want peace as well as there are people in Palestine.
And I think that's a very good point to make, Carolyn. But I also think what's important for us, myself included, as an American citizen dealing from my perspective at this issue over there, is realizing when we think of the Palestinian community, we're thinking of a varied community. There's Palestinian Christians, a good Palestinian Christian community. There's a lot of Palestinian, specifically Lutheran Christians, Episcopalian Christians, Roman Catholic Christians. It's not all Muslim community. It's
A large part.
a large part of it is, but when we talk about the Palestinians, we have to paint with a broader brush. I think.
That's right.
Yes.
And they have been Christians longer than, say, Lutherans or Methodists or Baptists. They've been Christians since 400 A.D.
Yeah.
Yeah, or even earlier.
Our Lutheran Church was one of the ministries that the church does in Palestine is that Lutheran hospital. We have a picture of the effect on the hospital in that is a Lutheran hospital sponsored in. Where is it specifically?
This is on Mount of Olives, and it's a gorgeous hospital. It was bombed out in '67, but was repaired now in '89. So it's quite modern. A picture of the wall will go right through the backyard. We also have a picture of the checkpoint that people must go through to get from one area. You can see
There's the
them.
checkpoint.
There's a checkpoint. They're walking through rubble to get to this hospital. Like in this country, the hospitals there, I believe, I can't find my note, but I believe there are about 6 Palestinian hospitals, and this being one. And like hospitals here, each one has specialized. This Augusta Victoria Hospital has worked for 4 years to get an accelerator so they can do radiation therapy.
Radiation therapy.
And they're so afraid in August when it's ready to open that they won't have patients. Their patients will not be able to get there.
Because they can't get to the hospital.
Right.
Does this hospital minister to other people besides the Palestinian
yes.
community?
Well, the Israelis wouldn't go.
Israelis would not go.
No. But the Muslims go. Most of the patients are Muslim.
Okay.
If the Israelis went, there'd be no trouble getting to the hospital. They would let them go, but they wouldn't go to a Christian hospital. When you have a machine that costs many millions of dollars, you have to keep that machine running all the time for efficiency. And because of the probability that it'll take you 3 hours to get through the checkpoint, and it doesn't open, so to speak, until, say, 9 o'clock in the morning, they don't start scheduling people until early afternoon, and they just have a narrow window because the people have to get out of the hospital after treatment to get through the checkpoint before the checkpoint closes.
And
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh, I was just going to say some of the other specialties of this hospital are surgical and dialysis.
No.
Dialysis is becoming a problem too, because to get there and have your treatment and leave, it takes too long. So they're allowing dialysis patients to stay for the week if they want to, and live at the hospital.
The complexity of these issues you bring up, individual people we're talking about, to me it's bewildering how we can work our way through this complex morass of reasons we do this or don't do that. It's, in a way, I hate to be a Christian that says hopeless, but sometimes I feel hopeless about this issue. And some of the things you've shared with us increase my hopelessness. But I mean, there's some effort being made. And the concluding picture you have here is a rose from the Peace Garden. Nancy, you want to talk about?
Yeah, I did want to say just one more thing about my family that I met. They assured me that because they want peace, but they have no qualms about living in close relationship to the Jewish population and the Muslim. They said we always have and we always can. But this is symbolic to me. There's a beautiful peace garden at St. George's Chapel in Jerusalem. And peace is the answer. Peace is what we want. Peace is what they want. And peace is what we need.
And peace is also the promise. And
We could change things. This country could change things in a hurry because the amount of money that we give to Israel is so tremendous every year that all we need to do would be to cut back on that.
thank you very much, Ernest, Carolyn, and Nancy, for this sharing today. We possibly will be having another edition of On Good Faith to talk more about some of the pictures and about this issue. It's a complex one, and again, as we conclude this segment of On Good Faith, I want to use that prayer again that I began our program with, and I think it just talks about what our prayer needs to be. We need from the cowardice that does not face new truth, from the laziness that is content with half-truth, and from the arrogance that thinks it knows all truth. Good Lord, deliver us. Thank you for being with us this day on Good Faith, and I hope you'll be with us again. Peace to you.